Hey, and welcome to the Reset Podcast. Everything you need to know that your therapist probably never told you. Researched by experts, real-life experiences. This is Reset. We are still talking about screens, but today we are going to specifically talk about social media. And remember, we have that free resource guide for you on our website, theresetgroup.com, to help you answer your questions and just to go more in depth, and has a lot of this information we're talking about here on that guide. Let's jump in. It's interesting because sociologists are saying that we are the most connected generation, and yet we are also the most lonely generation. We are the most socialized generation, but we have the most social anxiety and social phobias in the history of our country.
Well, you think about this dichotomy in which you can be alone but yet not feel lonely. Like there's people they're fine being alone, but they're not lonely. But then there's the aspect in which you could be around a group of people or be at a party and yet you can still feel lonely. And I think this totally feeds in the aspect of social media where we are connecting to so many people and we're around so many people like in our mind, but yet we don't feel connected. It kind of reminds me of like voyeurism, the aspect of like the diagnosis of voyeurism where you see someone's life or you're peeking in someone's life or you're looking in someone's life, but you don't feel connected to that person. A lot of people who have voyeurism are very lonely, feel very isolated, even though they are peeking into different people's, homes. And when you think about social media, it's like we're all in this world of voyeurism where we're looking in to everyone's lives without them knowing it. We're seeing who they are, good or bad.
Oh, they know.
Oh, do they know?
Because we like it. We push that heart.
We do. Do we try? But there are
I think
times
people enjoy that people are looking into their lives.
So this is interesting. So it's
weird.
Like voyeurism where we actually want to slightly get caught, but they can't stop. Well, I guess they could stop, but they can block us. It's more of we're okay with the voyeurism too.
Well, I guess they don't know who exactly is looking unless you like that photo. If it's a public profile, you can't tell who's actually looked at your picture. You're right. You could still be secretive. But yeah, that's weird, man.
And so I think that's a concept there, right? Where it's like just with the aspect of someone who has voyeurism, they have deep loneliness. I think that's what's happening. It's on a bigger scale, there's this massive amount of it where if your largest funnel of connection is through social media, then there's going to be this concept in which you have a greater chance of feeling lonely. Does that make sense?
It does.
So why is social media so, unhealthy? I would say at the practical level when it comes to, or maybe the biological level, is social media overactivates the reptilian part of our brain. So it's like the stress part, the survival part, the little lizard brain inside of us that is constantly trying to figure out what do I need to do to survive in life. And when that's being overridden and that part of the brain is just, becoming overactive, overused, is you're basically in a state of anxiety. You're always in a state of survival. And so you think about that because you're thinking and hoping your limbic system, just like your relational part of your brain, would get really fed, which is somewhat it is. But what else is happening is the aspect of anger, fear, anxiety, aggression, fight or flight, deficit-based thinking part of the brain is totally getting overfed. And so you walk away from it. Like, just think about like nighttime, like you're watching or looking at social media, like a lot of us do, in bed, and we turn it off and it's like, okay, I have a lot of racing thoughts now. And so to undo the racing thoughts, and we go back in social media thinking, okay, this is going to help, which technically it does because it feeds that lizard brain, right? That reptilian brain. But you turn it off, the reptilian brain saying, what? We got to go back on there. We got to figure out what's going on, what's happening in our world.
I think one of the biggest problems that I faced and have faced in social media is that I am comparing my insides, because I know my heart, I know my mind, I know all my struggles, with somebody else's outsides. I only know what they show me. And I have to remind myself constantly that they are a real person who has real struggles, real worries, and probably the same thoughts I do. But I'm just seeing all this glorious, wonderful, like cute things and happy things and wonderful things. I don't know who they really are except for what they show me. Like you were saying, it's so interesting. You talked about that reptilian part of our brain. And I think that's what causes the anger, the fear, the anxiety, the aggression, the deficit-based thinking is we are seeing only these parts they show us and we're comparing it to who we know we really are.
When you think about that, it's like reptilian part of the brain, and just common nature of it comes from I'm hungry, I gotta go, now what? I gotta go hunt. And so if I am anxious on social media or worried about, let's say, a relationship, or I'm afraid like someone's cheating on me, you go hunting on social media. You start checking out who tagged them, when were they on, did they look at my stuff, who did they Venmo, all that kind of, and you think I'm crazy saying that, but I have so many clients that tell me that's what they do. Is social media now becomes the reality check, which is such a horrible reality check to it, because really
it's not reality.
Well, in many ways, it becomes a confirmation bias to fears or stresses, whatever it may be. The American Journal of Public Health said this: there's a direct correlation with the increase of social media use and suicide ideation.
That's really heartbreaking.
Is that this engine that's supposed to create a sense of connection is actually creating a disconnection and really just creating probably such a loss in so many people, is that there is a direct correlation to suicide ideation, destruction of self.
Well, and don't they say that the top 3 words that are searched past 9 p.m. on Google are porn, suicide, and loneliness?
And you think about that. I mean, that's been around for a while. And so if you think about that, is in social media, you can find pornography. On social media can, in many ways, make you feel more lonelier, which then can create the aspect of wanting to die. And so it's not helping, maybe it's hurting. I remember when, Tinder, was it called? Tumblr was the big thing with the kiddos. And this was really, it was a really first version of Pinterest, of like Pinterest basically being dark, the dark web Pinterest before Pinterest was even around. And my kiddos would be, I always call my clients my kiddos, that they would be on Tumblr, and this is what they would find on Tumblr: pro-annie websites or pro-annie information, like pro-anorexic, and where they teach them how to get skinny, how to maintain a weight under 100 pounds. Wild but true. It was huge up there on Tumblr. Then they would find there would be pro-suicide, where they teach them how to commit suicide in ways that there would be pictures of dead bodies. Wild but true was on there. But then there'd also be pro-cutting, where people would actually cut their arms, your names into it. Like you could pay them to cut your name in their arm. There's just wild stuff that's on. This is 05. Think about this. And the government wasn't doing anything. Yahoo buys it, by the way. Yahoo buys Tumblr. And they're going to say, hey, I'm going to completely make this to family friendly. We're going to get rid of all these disgusting, groups are on there and content that's on there. Well, guess what happened? Tumblr ends up losing all these viewers or people on there. And Yahoo's freaking out because they just bought it. And so they came back and said, and by the way, I think they're going to call it Yumbler, Yahoo and Tumblr together. And Yahoo comes back and says, there's no way, it basically says in so many ways, is we want to respect the original Tumblr and people who like to enjoy it. We're not going to change anything. Well, not going to change anything because they're going to lose money, losing all these users. And so I just look back about that comment of 3 words, porn, suicide, loneliness, how those are being searched after 9 p.m., how much that is something that can easily be found, and you could find those emotions on social media. In California alone, 3 years ago, suicide rate was up 30%. This is before COVID. And this goes back to the Journal of Public Health, going back to saying the belief system around that was the aspect of social media and screens for teenagers. I know where we're from, specifically Orange County, we were having a lot of kids in South Orange County. I think the youngest one might have been age 11 or 12. Committing suicide. It was just it's actually very rare to find one of my clients who doesn't know someone who committed suicide from their school. To think about how many degrees away we are from hearing that and seeing that. And part of it is a lot of these kids that I heard from my clients is that they would post on social media prior to even committing suicide. Either they send out a Snapchat, or they send out a post or something like that. So the glorification of it, which is interesting. There's something called the Werther effect in psychology. And the Werther effect is if someone that's famous or someone that is known commit suicide in your life, the chances of you committing suicide is actually greater. The chance of you having suicide ideation increases dramatically. Reason why the word effect comes from a book. I forgot the book's name was. I think it's back in the 40s and 50s. And they found all these kids would read this book, and then there would be suicide ideation after it in the schools. And I think the lead character's name was Werther, and so that's where they got it from. So it's just like, I remember when I was in the psych ward, working in the psych ward, of course, that there was, what's his name? Robin Williams, passing away, that the amount of increase of suicide ideation, that's a big person who ended up killing himself. When that happens, these kids are seeing that often now, especially even with famous people, but even their own peers, that, social media ends up being a driving force to create a Werther effect in so many ways. So what's the result of really we're finding about social media, especially when it comes to girls? Because girls, we talked about this for the last part, is like boys are more bent towards what? Video games, girls are more bent towards social media, is that it creates not a peaceful brain, but an anxious one. It doesn't create a happy brain, but a depressed one. It doesn't create a content brain, but instead, or it doesn't create a content brain. It creates a dissatisfied brain that screams, I need to change. And I go back to, that's what's going on behavioralism wise, is we go back to the socialization plus competition equals addiction, and to be competing against yourself, picture versus picture, video versus video, or other people's, they got more likes than I did.
Because you're constantly feeling like you're not good enough.
That's 100% right, is that there's going to be this constant need to, I need to change to create more of what I want. Because you think about viewers don't want to see more of the same. They want to see more of something different. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like with porn usage, porn addiction is people have porn addiction, they don't watch the same video every day. They watch something different. It's more of the same, but differently. Meaning like the behavior is the same.
Desensitization again.
And there we go again. And so if you're always thinking, switching to identity, or it's like teen girls, like I need to continue to be changing, then who are you? What is your identity? Think about a lot of identity crisis we're hearing from kids, if it's sexual identity or if it's gender identity issues, that we're seeing this concept in which people are not figuring out who they are during the identity years of their development. And the term we use is they're searching or they're seeking the social validation cycle. They're just in the cycle where they want to be validated socially, and they just can't do it. And instead of coming out feeling whole and great, instead is social media is just grooming them to what they wear, what they need to look like, what their hair needs to be like, what they need to post, how they need to say things. It's just this really humongous social psychology experiment. Or, like David from Schitt's Creek said, it's just
it's just an amusement park for sociopaths.
Thank you. And there it is.
Was it sociopaths?
Yep.
Well, and this creates a cycle because there's also this weird side of your brain that just wants more. Even though it's this negative, yucky feeling that they're walking away from, or even we're walking away from, is you just want more because you're not feeling like you're good enough. You feel like you need to change. You got to see more. Who's doing this? Why are they doing this? What are they wearing? What are they struggling with? How can I connect? How can I feel seen? How can I be quote unquote normal? Yeah,
your hypothalamus is just completely being burnt out from all the dopamine. I mean, nothing else is going to give you that dopamine hit than really social media and video games does. For boys, their relationship to social media is a little bit different. Like for girls, it's more of the aspect of, that validation and getting looks and that kind of stuff. For boys, we see a lot more of what social media is used for them, or how they use it, is actually to gain power and to manipulate, and really creates a narcissistic mindset, narcissistic even personality, where they will do it to achieve or conquer what they want from someone. Specifically, honestly, it's women. They're going after women in a certain way, and they realize they can do that. I could write a book about the most craziest DMs that my clients get from guys that are just awful. I mean, grotesque. Grotesque. Is that how you say it? Yes. Yeah. It's just, it's like the guys have no idea what women want. But the sad part is, because women so desire to be validated, some say, I will just accept this because it's better than nothing. Which is really sad. And so, go ahead.
So I've created a limitation for me on my phone with social media, like an hour a day or whatever it is. Mainly, like, I post a lot for our business, and I don't even get on because it's like I know it's going to do to my heart and my mind. In just 10 minutes on social media, it can raise oxytocin levels in the blood by 13%, creating feelings of trust and security and reduce anxiety levels short term. So it is that short fix, that quick fix where you're like, oh, I'm feeling better. And then all of a sudden you get off and vroom.
It's just like with video games. The instant reaction is you feel better, but then all of a sudden it turns from tranquility to cortisol to stress. You think about this too. It's like it's really go back to this whole aspect of the dopamine system, right? Where the hypothalamus is being activated. And here's what we know about the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus likes to be stimulated with information that is small and limited. For some reason, that's what's satisfying for us. So if you think about like the first 5 seconds on a YouTube, commercial, you think about like Snapchat, it's there and it's gone. You think about Reels on Instagram, it's there and it's gone. The concept of short bursts information is great. I was thinking about we had like we call him a social media director who's trying to teach us is, 5 seconds videos are just good enough. And they're watching over and over again. But social media apps are very popular right now. They have this aspect of it's there and it's gone.
And this, honestly, y'all, this has been conditioned in our brains slowly. I tried to have my son watch Jungle Book a few years ago, and it was so slow and boring he couldn't sit through it, which just made me think these were the movies that were exciting to us. So slowly over time, you even watch cartoons now. They're so fast-paced, even being in the voiceover world, how fast and you're supposed to talk when you're on these like Disney shows or Nickelodeon shows or whatever it is for older kids, talking fast, moving fast, fast movements, all this stuff, because we are slowly conditioning our brain to need things faster, quicker now than ever before.
Well, and we tried to introduce our cousins who are teenagers to Seinfeld. And because Seinfeld's like the greatest, comedy back in our day, #1 syndicated. Man, we sat there and watched the first few episodes. They were bored out of their mind how slow that show was. Even slightly like Friends gets that way. Mm-hmm. When it comes to that show, how much things have changed and our brain has changed so much when it comes to that. But even our kids, but you're right, when it comes to even, like, there's no way they could watch Bobby's World. Remember Bobby's World?
Oh, do I remember Bobby's World?
Oh my God, can you do the mom's voice?
Oh, Bobby, don't you know? Get your finger out of your nose, young man. That's disgusting.
And there you go. There is your
Babby.
job right there.
Oh, Babby.
Yeah. And that's what you get paid to do. When you think about even like the oxytocin research you just said, 10 minutes on social media increases by 13%. We'll look at emotional support animals. Let's say a dog. It's 20 minutes petting a dog. 20 minutes petting a dog or more to get to that level of oxytocin you need to feel connected. Or do I just do half that time, 10 minutes, and watch dogs on social media, which we know we are a sucker for?
But here's the thing. Petting the dog for 20 minutes is going to have a long-lasting effect to actually bring your anxiety down for a long time and in the future, as opposed to looking at a screen and getting the instant satisfaction of, oh, my anxiety's gone. And then 20 minutes later it comes back.
And so let's just kind of get to what's really going on, the practical, what's happening here. And so here's the practical that's going on, not just with social media and pornography. So here's what's really going on. And maybe the critical thinking part of it, not just when it comes to social media, but also video games or pornography. To kind of sum up this series we just did now, is that social media and screens in general, they have the potential of creating an emotional foothold on us. An emotional foothold is a military term, which means if you take a small territory, you could control the whole country. And so screens, porn, video games, social media, it could take a small territory of our brain, but they could control the whole being of it. And that's what's kind of happening there. An emotional foothold ends up leading to an emotional stronghold, meaning it depletes me emotionally, harms me relationally, and attacks me mentally, and ultimately destroys us existentially if we have no boundaries around it. And so if we're just a free-range screen family, a free-range screen person, is at some point we've all been there. I've been there when I had to reel it back. We've all been there before. where the emotional stronghold or emotional foothold turns to that emotional stronghold where we just kind of lose who we are just in general, and it attacks us in that way.
Yes. And I think that's something for us all to just sit with for a minute and think about. And I know for me personally, I've noticed this is why I've really limited my time on my screen, is that I'm more irritable. I'm more short fused with, especially, Joe and the kids, and just more anxious in general. Just this overlying, I don't even know where it comes from. Like, why am I feeling like this? And then I had to stop and pause, and I was trying to fix everything else in my life. And then once I actually limited that amount on social media, I realized, whoa, that's what the problem was. I tried to do right, like, okay, I'm going to eat right, I'm going to work out, I'm going to do all these things. And I finally realized for me, it affects me for sure emotionally and mentally. And that really affects then how I treat other people. That's just me personally. I just noticed it makes me short fused and irritable and like the person I don't want to be.
So what do we do? What is the ending here? What are some takeaways that we could pull away either as parents, as for a marriage, or just as individuals? Two things. I think there's a practical and a principle. And so let's talk about the practical. The practical has to do with connect and protect. And so take practical steps. Choose to be crisis prevention, not crisis control. Don't wait until you find something on there or something goes wrong on there. At that point, it's too late. It's too late in so many ways. And so learn to be crisis prevention. Don't be reactionary. Be future thinking when it comes to it. So connect. What does that mean? Create an open, honest relationship regarding this. So if it's with your kids, if it's with your spouse, whatever it may be, is have an open and honest relationship about how we're going to handle screens, what is out there, what we need to recognize, what do we want to stop. Make sure to emphasize the concept of credibility, especially to teens. Not everything is true. Not everything on the internet people are who they say they are. Like, just put it out there. There's a lot of fake stuff. I don't care if it's that concept of fake news to fake people, catfishing, or a lot of opinions that are out there. But I think we need to teach. The great example of this was our kid with this motorcycle. Remember he won this?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yes. So I think they were watching, Sawyer loves to watch just like sciencey things and Dude Perfect and all these things. And he had watched something with what do you call those? Motocross bike? What are they called?
Well, it's an electric.
Oh, an electric mountain bike.
We're going electric in this family.
That's right. That's right.
It's a battery operated.
Battery operated, kind of looks like
It looks like a 50 motorbike.
And so I was sitting there with him and he said, can I look one up online? And I said, yeah. So if he's ever looking up something, I try to make sure I'm right there. Because again, we don't know what goes on, even though we have protection on the computer. And so he looks it up and he finds one and he shows it to me. And it was like $60. And I thought to myself, dude, these things are at least $200. There's just no way. I'm like, okay, let's talk to Daddy about it. And I even do the deep dive of this website. And Joe and I come together and we're like, dude, this is not real. This does not seem credible. And even people were saying, don't order from this website.
It's a scam.
And he was so excited about it because he had found one that was reasonably priced and he could afford it himself. And we had to sit down and talk to him and say and explain what a scam is and explain, but what if we order it and it does come? But what if it doesn't, buddy? Well, like, we're not replacing your $60. Like, it actually took him a whole day to process, maybe even two, to get over.
He kept asking questions about what is a scam, or why would why would people take my money and not send me it? And then we had to tell him, like, okay, there's these websites that are there to take your money, but you don't get. And so it was this interesting thing. But then we realized here we are trying to let them know is that the concept of credibility on the internet is just not there. And so be buyer aware, but user aware. And it was just such a good conversation, which is why the second aspect of connecting with your kids and say, hey, not everyone there is real and everyone there is who they say you are. The third aspect of connect is start a conversation regularly about online safety. It's not a one and done. It is a weekly talk that you need to have with them. You see anything interesting on there? Hey, by the way, I found this. Be aware of this. So, for example, my advice is that you could Google current online trends regarding teens and safety, and Google will just give you everything you need to know. And so part of that is take what you want from that, but don't be afraid to inform them when it comes to it, connect them on that. And lastly, be transparent about the protections you're setting up. We want to create cause and effect thinking. Some of my parents don't want to do this. And my advice is I want to tell my kid, hey, I am following everything. Everything goes to a cloud that I could check and look up. There's things that are going to be naturally blocked. I'm not going to tell you what those are, but they're going to be blocked because the aspect of I want safety in your area and in your life when it comes to it. I'm not going to tell you the specific words. I want you to try to search them up. And the fact is I'm going to let you know that every text that comes in, I read it or can read it if I want to, and it's going to be out there. So I want to know that there is going to be transparency out there because no kid should have complete control of it. They have not earned that trust yet. They're not old enough. Their brains are not ready for that yet.
Well, and it truly comes from the root of caring about them. And that's even what we're trying to talk about our kids with them right now when it comes to YouTube or whatever it is, or shows they're not allowed to watch. Like, well, why? It's not good for you. It's our job as our parents to help you, take care of you, and help you navigate these new things that could be difficult.
So you connect, then you got to protect. Protect means what? Questions that I feel all parents need to answer, including people in marriages. Here they are. What devices do you want to have? What devices do you want your children to have? Is it a flip phone, smartphone, tablet, computer? Like establish that early on when they're like 2 years old. I mean, establish it maybe 2 days old. Just establish that in your marriage. Second question is, what do you want to use it for? I mean, like, okay, we're going to have this. What are you going to use it for? Is it education? Is it for piano lessons? Is it for communication, for information, for socialization, for entertainment, responsibility, for tracking, for intel, for gaming? What is it? Like, just define the role so it's clear for you, but it's also clear for them. What are your no screens times and areas? Meaning you cannot say yes to everything. A bedroom is a place to sleep, not to entertain. We don't have Thanksgiving there, so we're not going to have our screens in the bedroom. Do you want it in the bathroom? Do you want your kid to have it in the bathroom? If they take a shower, it's there. After they go potty, is it there? Do you want that? Do you want it upstairs versus downstairs? Is there going to be a area where you do the good old, you plug it in and you charge it? Like, define where it's at. Is it going to be at the dinner table? It's not going to be at the dinner table. Whatever you have for them, you need to model that in your life. Lastly, where is the nighttime family charging center? It's not going to be their bedroom. My advice is not in the kitchen because I have plenty of kiddos who wake up in the middle of the night, go down to the kitchen, get the phone, and then set an alarm, put it back down there at 4 a.m. Let me just tell you where it's going to be. It's going to be in your room, parents. It's
under your pillow.
Under
Just
your
kidding.
pillow. No. We want you to make sure that you have a place where they can't be tempted after a certain time to go out and do it. And to do that, I would create a contract. Matter of fact, in our parents guide, we have example of contracts that we like, that other people made up, we've made up, and it's really good. Why is the point of the contract? The point of the contract is, once again, transparency, honesty, and say, here it is. They have it.
I also just want to add, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I truly think it's 100% unfair for a child for you to give them a fully loaded phone with no boundaries or restrictions. I can't blame a kid for looking up the stuff they do. I can't blame them for getting addicted. I can't blame them for having it at the dinner table, having it out all the time, if we as parents are not setting the boundaries and limitations. I mean, think of us as adults. We barely have boundaries on our own phones. It's really unfair to give your kid a fully loaded phone without doing all of these things, because kids actually need those boundaries and those limitations so they know how to navigate this insane window into the world through internet and all of these things. Just wanted to say that.
Well, I think it's great. And so we have so many ways. The practical is connection and protection. And I would even throw there correction as well, which is you need correction, protection, and connection. And probably the correction part is anytime there's a hole, there's a gap in the protection, then correct it. And like I said, our parenting guide, we actually lay out exactly what we would do, and we call it the reset way when it comes to anything from computers to Xbox, where it may be. So that's practical. The principle, what's the umbrella of the theme, is model, mentor, and the message. Model healthy bonding boundaries with them when it comes to their relationship towards screens. Mentor them. connect and coach. It's not set and forget. Get in there and do it. And the message needs to be is our goal is to position you for long-term success in life. And so sometimes we say no to short-term bursts, the 10-minute hit of social media to feel oxytocin, and maybe say yes to a 20-minute pet of your golden retriever instead. Or maybe go outside and have fun with friends.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's important for us to actually check in on our kids and say, hey, how are you doing with your phone? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Do you feel overwhelmed on all of these group chats or whatever it is? And we've always talked about having one place in our home, like our living room, where phones are never allowed. So, that's a safe space you could just be. And, if mom and dad are in there, we're fully available, which we should be fully available, obviously to them, but just a safe place where they're learning how to navigate this with young, underdeveloped minds. So let's help them. Let's come alongside them. Thank you for listening to the Reset Podcast. We're so glad that you joined us. If you enjoyed this episode, would you take a moment to leave us a review and maybe even hit that subscribe or follow button? Also, pay it forward by sharing this podcast with a friend. For free resources and to learn more about coaching for individuals, athletes, couples, and teams, go to theresetgroup.com. And we would love to connect with you on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at The Reset Group. See you soon.